And now I'm gonna preface the story by saying this, and this has been a message, and this is why we are the post duopoly left. The message I send and I continue to convey to people, especially people who consider themselves to be anti-war. Voting for the Democratic Party is enabling the military-industrial complex. There was no hiding who Joe Biden was. There was no hiding what the Democratic Party agenda was, especially in the era of Russiagate, where they openly talk about how they must counter China and Russia. And voting blue enables the military-industrial complex. You cannot consider yourself to be a socialist if you are enabling these systems. So I'm going to show you guys the result of your quote-unquote lesser two evils. And this is why both parties, there's a concerted effort to get you guys to focus on the culture war so they can continue to rob us blind. Here's this is a story that came out earlier today. New boom for arms makers in the United States military spending increases. And this is regarding the new military-industrial complex boom that we've seen under Joe Biden. And this is the question I posed when I was on the Glenn Greenwald show. I also mentioned this on the mother of all talk shows. And I always bring this point up when I make my first debut on these big platforms, because I want to make it clear to people that's hearing me for the first time. If you want to vote out the influence of Raytheon, Boeing, there is no option in the United States for that. CJ, you notice I always mention that every single media appearance? That's on purpose. Yes. That's on purpose. Because I want people to realize we are a capitalist dictatorship. And I'm gonna quickly read this, and I'm gonna show you guys why we have the coverage that we do. And you can ask yourself why the NATO left and the boutique left, their coverage serves their agenda. They're promoting NATO, repeating NATO propaganda, supporting the Ukrainians in their endless pursuit of military endeavors. You are not anti-war if you do that. You are a tool of the military-industrial complex. Bernie Sanders, AOC, in the squad, who voted for weapons to Taiwan, who voted for every single Ukraine aid package, their vote is directly correlated to the increase of the military-industrial complex. And that is what we got to tell these squad sycophants to snap them out of the idea that they are anti-establishment. So let's read the beginning of this, and you guys see how ridiculous this is. And because I have another part of this story I'm going to bring up, the hypocrisy on the global stage regarding this issue. The United States is the biggest export-import of terror, the biggest threat to peace in the world, period. Look at this. The prospect of growing military threats from both China and Russia is driving bipartisan support. The growing military threat of China? I'm asking you guys, for anyone sitting at home, please ask yourself, do you guys feel like Beijing is about to attack you? Do you guys feel a threat from Beijing? Do you guys see the clown? This is ridiculous.
How can they sell this? Like, I get selling war, but how can they sell this war, Nick? This is a unique sale because it's a different sale than anything else. China, like this sale of war with China, I'm curious the narrative they're going to try to sell, or do you feel like they're already using one that they're selling?
Remember how
I just don't understand how they're going to convince the majority of people on that. I don't
remember how we did a breakdown of China anti-China propaganda, and when they say China is a threat to the United States, they're not talking to us because they want a unipolar dominance, right? So China is a threat to that. So when they say that, they want you to leave that conversation with the implied threat of, oh, China must be a military threat to us. And they leave it purposely vague on purpose. And now the messaging coming from Washington now is not even that subtle anymore. They just straight up saying, oh, the military threat of China. Who has military bases surrounding the other country. That's the United States, not China. So let me finish this part. I'm gonna show you guys some more receipts. Congress is on track in the coming week to give the final approval to a national military budget for the current fiscal year that is going to reach $858 billion, $45 billion more than what President Biden requested. And I cannot emphasize enough, this is bipartisan.
How does that happen? Well, how come that never happens? We go to Senate and say, hey, $15 minimum wage, and they say, fuck that. Here's $20 minimum wage. How come that never happens the other way, Nick? How come they go in for military and they go, here's $45 billion more you didn't even ask for?
Now do you guys know why they want you to fight over transgender people in bathrooms now?
So you don't think about that.
So you don't think about this. Now you see why they're pushing the culture war. Actually, got 24/7 groomers over here, guys. The only groomers that are out there are the military personnel that recruit kids in high school. That's a groomer. Our military is. They groom kids, lie to them about war, and get them killed. And then the ones who survive, they abandon them. That's why 22 veterans kill themselves every single day. That's a groomer. If we are having a serious conversation. But a lot of Americans, they don't want to have serious conversations like that. They rather pretend some random TikTok is grooming kids or some shit, right? The real groomers are the military. Y'all ain't ready for that conversation. Let me read this next part. I'm gonna get you the next receipt.
Our audience pretty base. They might be ready for it. I don't know.
Yeah, I only talk to the one person that might have stumbled to our stream for the first time. I ain't talking to you guys.
Yeah. I get what you're doing. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah,
too,
I gotta be nice to our audience. So you guys
I'll make a comment that's specifically to one person. It's not to everybody else. I get you. Yeah, do that.
Yeah. You guys know I love you. I'm gonna read this part.
I can't sleep at night knowing China won't attack us. It's so silly. This is gonna be the response, though, Nick. People are gonna be like, "What? Where's China doing any of these stuff? Where's China killing and bombing people?"
And now you guys want to see why we've been pushing back aggressively against the Ukraine propaganda. This is Jake Sullivan, Biden's national security advisor. Put the buildup in strategic terms. He said, "Oh, this military." The gigantic military budget increase, we got a strategy in that, and not corruption. He said the war in Ukraine has exposed the shortfalls in the nation's military-industrial base. They are now saying, oh, because of the war in Ukraine, we underestimated how much we need in the military. Okay, if this is true, and the argument they say this is because of China and this is because of Russia. If this is true, explain the military increase last year, and the year before that, and the year before that. You can see how they always they create a boogeyman. The liberal establishment is more than happy to go along with it, and they say, "Oh, because of Putin, we got to fund the military-industrial complex more," and they get away with it because they get most people to focus on stupid-ass conversations like trans people in sports and other ridiculous nonsense that is meant to divide the working class. And that's why you guys think this push. Go ahead, CJ. Go ahead. I'm ranting.
No, I just wanted to explain my theory, and I'm gonna say it as many times as I want because I really do believe this is what they do. So my theory to divide the working class, because you just brought up the trans debate that keeps going on. Now you have to ask yourself, why is this push so much? It's not sheer numbers. You're talking about 1% of 1% of 1%. Okay, you're talking about a small. So why then is Republicans doing this? You have to think from a strategic point of view. What are their number one issues, Nick, right now? Stuff like CRT, defund for police, trans. Now, would you say these are more newly or revived left, more radical left sort of policies or topics? This is the left of the left sort of topics. And where hasn't that hit yet? Middle America, where most of the white people live. So what do? They attack the most left thing that's out there. And because they know that's how they can separate the white worker. The pop culture things start on the coast and then they move inland. They had some of these issues haven't moved inland to be pop, like part of pop culture inland. So that's the issues Republicans, just based off of them strategically based off, how do we get all of middle America with us? This is it. Let's go after these issues. CRT, even though it's not even being taught, Nick, even though it's not being taught, it magically appeared. Out of where? And same thing with trans issue. Tulsi Gabbard literally just post a video for no reason about trans women in sports. No reason at all. And why is she doing this?
I was on the convo couch and we was talking about this. We were having a great conversation about it. And I explained, like, guys, I'm 30 years old. I grew up in the 90s. Like, why are people pretending like drag shows is like a new thing? Like, people pretend like this is a new phenomenon. There've been drag shows forever. If you want to have critiques of that, go ahead. If you want to be, if that's your biggest struggle, congratulations on the privilege, whatever. But people pretend that this is a new phenomenon that's going on, and that was people doing. Oh my God, you guys see these drag shows? I grew up knowing about these things. I grew up knowing about all this, and they pretend this is a new. We got a new culture war that we got to invent. No, they were desperate to distract you from them robbing you. We just had a pandemic, a national recession, where the billionaire class left richer. Elon Musk made record profits. Jeff Bezos made record profits. The top 1% made record profits, and after the pandemic, they are enriching themselves because of war. Meanwhile, they want you to think the number one issue in our society are these culture war debates. And people get upset at us every once in a while. I know you say it too, TJ, because we don't engage in it. People are like, oh my God, Urban, are you telling me that this debate between trans kids in school is not important? I said, yes, it's not. That's a local issue, motherfucker. Nick, I told you guys. Go ahead, TJ. But this
is what they sold people on. They sold people on drag shows and little kids grooming. Is RuPaul's Drag Race not one of the top shows on cable? Isn't that a popular show on cable? Hasn't it been a popular show for like fucking 10 years? 10 years, Nick? How many conservative people may tune in to his drag show, or I think is Drag Race or something like that, and their kids is just running around in the house? Why now is it an issue now, Nick? How is that any different? You're watching RuPaul's Drag Race on TV, and your kids are walking around in your house.
And the audacity of these people in the South to bring up this groomer accusation after your culture embrace child beauty pageants. Yeah, come on, that's some shit I discovered a few years ago. Like, how is this real? The creepiest shit I ever seen in my life. And they have the nerve. They have nerve.
Shit. Yeah.
If you guys ever curious, if you want to vomit, look up child beauty pageants and tell you that's not the cringiest shit of all time. That's the culture that the South embraced on the right. And they like, oh my God, the LGBT community grooming people. Nigga, are y'all serious? Y'all not ready for that conversation. Do y'all really want to do culture critiques? I'm not ready for that. But anyway, I want to get back to the story. Yes. This is what I mentioned. I want to show you this receipt. This is a great tweet by Danny. And we're gonna do a collab here soon. We're gonna try to figure that out. But this is the people they want us to be afraid of. China, the aggressive China. Look at the United States military bases next to China, around China. That's why I have the exact opposite talking point that blows the mind of people who their mind is still colonized. China, Iran, Russia, Venezuela, despite the mainstream narrative, the DPRK especially shown amazing restraint the last few decades. Yes, I said it. That goes complete counter to everything you've been taught, but that is the truth. Every enemy of the United States has shown amazing restraint and resilience towards global peace. Iran, China, and Russia. And anytime, if these motherfuckers had the temperament of Anthony Blinken and John Bolton, can you imagine China with the temperament of John Bolton? This society would have been in global nuclear war. Can you imagine in the United States, if this is Florida over here, New York is over here, Canada somewhere, California is over here, right? Can you imagine if Russia, China, Iran had military bases? You guys heard the Cuban Missile Crisis? The Cuban Missile Crisis started because the Soviet Union decided to put missiles, allegedly, next to Cuba. They literally started a nuclear war. They literally almost started a nuclear war. Meanwhile, we do this every single day to everyone else. But you guys see, whenever our allies become militarized, it's because of China's fault. But you guys hear the stories all the time. They say, "Oh my God, China is a threat. They are being hostile. They are provoking us with their military. They're doing military drills in their own military area." They're doing military drills in the sea of Taiwan that is a part of China. So, oh my God, the DPRK has a military. Do you guys know that? Do you guys know the DPRK was flying their warplanes the other day? How dare they? Iran, they did military drills. Are they provoking the West? That's the shit you hear all the time. Meanwhile, let me show you guys something. This is Japan and our allies. Germany is now a militarized state again. You remember after the whole Nazi thing, they said they wasn't going to do that anymore? You remember the whole Imperial Japan? Remember that? And Japan was like, you know what? I know we went a little crazy there. The rape of Nanjing, torturing, colonizing, and brutally committing genocide in Southeast Asia during the age of Imperial Japan. We fucked up. We're going to go through a pacifist age. And now, because of modern neoliberalism and NATO, all the Western allies have become more militaristic. Meanwhile, you guys are talking about the cultural war. We were seeing the neoliberal agenda globally arming up to fight against BRICS. Look at this headline and look at the propaganda that's still going on. I got a few headlines to show you guys regarding this. Japan approves biggest military buildup since Second World War. Imperial Japan is back, baby. Amid China fears. The U.S. welcomes doubling of military spending, but critics express unease over abandoning 7 decades of pacifism. So Japan is abandoning 7 decades of pacifism, and the West is saying, "Oh well, it's because they're afraid of China. It's because they're afraid of the DPRK." And this is not, the Japanese people are not happy about this, guys. I went to look this up. A poll shows 65% disapprove of a tax hike that will cover Japan's increased defense budget. And this budget is significant. I gotta pull this screenshot because I was locked out in New York Times. So I'll grab a screenshot of this. Japan doubled the military budget. Look, Japan moves to double military spending with wary eye on China. CJ, you notice every single headline I found on this, they found a way to mention China. And the New York Times they went to the next level. They mentioned North Korea as well. Look, the Japanese cabinet approved the first update to the country's official security strategy in 9 years, elevating Beijing over North Korea as top threat. So whenever, let's get this straight, and this is what I mentioned, right? Whenever the DPRK, North Korea, whenever China, whenever they increase the military, whenever they do military drills, they say, "Oh my God, this is an escalation. This is a show of an aggression." Look at China. Oh my God, China increasing their military capacities. They are really posturing against the West. Meanwhile, when Japan does the same thing, they say, "Oh well, Japan is doubling their military budget because of China and North Korea." It's always China's fault.
Somebody else.
It's always someone else. This is neoliberalism. This is going on as Israel becoming more militant. They're bombing Syria. They're ethnically cleansing Palestinians. Saudi Arabia is ethnically performing a genocide in Yemen. You have the Biden administration bombing Somalia. You have the neoliberal regime in the West is becoming more militarized because that is their plan to fight against the global working class moving forward. Now you guys see why I talk about this a lot? You guys see why this is a very important issue? And not only the United States, the entire Western society is becoming more militarized. Neoliberalism is militarism. And if you consider yourself an ally to the Democratic Party, and this has been amplified by the votes of the squads and Bernie Sanders. They voted for the weapons of Taiwan. They want to escalate against China. They voted for Ukraine aid packages. Now I'm gonna quickly go over here because this is showing you see increased police budgets. You had the UK Prime Minister who talk about cracking down on protests. This is the headline I put up earlier. Public libraries being defunded by Democrats in order to fund the police state more. This is the path that we are on through neoliberalism that is literally supported by both parties. I want you guys to be clear. As I said, these military budget increases are bipartisan. And all our allies is increasing the military, and they are going to fight this shift into a multipolar world to the end. Anyway, CJ, I'll wrap the segment there.
How do you think, like, how can you fight it? Do you have a theory, or have you read how do they
the West is delusional
fight?
The West is delusional because since they see that China is going to take over, BRICS is taking over, the rest of the world is now rebuking the West on many different topics because they know that they're not the number one head honcho in charge anymore. They can rely on trade with China. They have this delusional strategy where they can, where they're trying to convince Europe, they're trying to convince Africa countries to decouple from China. Well, I know BRICS is growing this giant empire, but can you guys not do business with them and do business with us instead? Can you guys arbitrarily take our positions on geopolitical issues, even though it doesn't affect our national security or our country's interests? And I want to show you guys this clip from Zoli because it actually relates to your question, and it was part of the segment, so that was a great transition. I want to show you this because this is you start to see more and more people say this. The strategy of the West is straight up delusional. I'll let the video speak for itself because the neoliberals and the global strategy that comes from the Biden administration and Anthony Blinken, that is also supported by the right, by the way. And this is the people like Tucker Carlson, the anti-war right. Even they don't hide the fact that they believe we should be more hostile than China. So let me play the video. And this guy kind of answers your question, CJ. That's why I'm glad you asked it, because it's actually really relevant. So let's play this video here.
I think the United States will find it very difficult to decouple from China because they'll find with China getting more integrated with not just East Asia, with the rest of the world, a decoupling between US and China may mean a decoupling between US and the world. And I can tell you just 2 nights ago, I was on a panel with the foreign minister of South Africa and the former foreign minister of Brazil, Celso Amorim. And Celso Amorim said, listen, I mean, look at the amount of trade that Brazil does with United States, right? Brazil's trade with China, I think, is 3 times. Brazil's trade with United States. And 20 years ago, it took Brazil 1 year to export $1 billion to China. Now it takes Brazil 72 hours to export $1 billion to China. So Celso Amorim said that if you look at Argentina and the other states, China is a much bigger trader for them. So therefore, the integration between China and the rest of the world, I actually predict, will gain pace. China's trade with the rest of the world is going to bounce back significantly. And as the United States tries to decouple with China, it suddenly finds, hey, this is a problem. China is so integrated with the rest of the world. How do I decouple? Avoid
these capitalists, man, about to run us into a damn motherfucking wall, man. Damn these motherfuckers, man. It is just disgusting. And it's like it's a plane and they're the pilots, but they have ejection seats and parachutes, Nick. And they're saying, fuck everybody else in this plane. We running this shit into the wall for this shit.
They know they're gonna be good.
And this is it.
And now you see with that video, now you see why they are trying to pretend China is a military threat. Now you see why they're desperate to do anything they can to go to war with China, and why China is having the right strategy of continuing to be pacifist despite the United States violating one China agreement. They crossed China's red line multiple times, and China said it was going to respond. The United States called their bluff because China realized like this shit is not worth it. Like if we respond to them in any way, that will give the United States justification to do the only thing they can do to possibly stop our rise is to violently take us out. So China, they made business relationships with Saudi Arabia recently, and they should have said, "Yo, I don't care what you do. I don't care about your business. We about making paper. You about making paper. I'm about making paper." The United States, they're not about making that paper no more. You about making paper, and the crown prince is like, matter of fact, I am. So China's like, we're gonna let you guys send arms to Taiwan. We're gonna allow you to prop up separatists in Taiwan, and their plan backfired because in the recent election, Taiwanese separatists was rejected. So China niggas, they like, bro, y'all niggas, they taking L. What's panicking? This is panic shit.
This is panic.
They're taking abortion rights. They're putting marriage equality back on the table. Why do you think they're re-sparking these old debates that was already solved? Because they're desperate. Hey guys, you gotta pay attention to this shit. We gotta go to war with China. It's so transparent to me. Last thought, CJ, and I pass it to you. I know you got stories.
Yeah, I want to read a couple of things. I don't think, because I didn't see you post this, but I think you would appreciate this headline and art and the couple of paragraphs I'm going to read here. Goes with this segment. The imperialist powers prepare for World War III. U.S., Japan, Germany plan for record military spending. Yep. This is from over at what we use. We're starting to use this a lot more. World Socialist website. This is by Andre Damien. It was just written 2 days ago. Over the past week, the United States, Germany, and Japan, three of the principal combatants in the last World War. That's key to understand on what's happening. People just think these are random countries. No, they're not.
Yeah,
they're not. They literally are not. Three of the principal combatants in the last World War moved to approve their largest military budgets since World War II. Each marking a major escalation in their preparation for military conflict with Russia and China. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think, I know this answer, but I'm curious to I want you to say it and expand and, give more detail. What is China and Russia looking at? What's happening?
So can we all just acknowledge that it's kind of disgusting, and Japan should forever keep China's name out of his fucking mouth. Like how dare for now on, after the rape of Nanjing, after what you guys did in World War II, after the cries of Imperial Japan, I think you guys should shut the fuck up about China forever. How about that? How about we come to that agreement, guys? So, Japan, let me ask you guys this question. And this anger is not directed at the Japanese people, because I show you guys, a lot of young Japanese people are in a position that we are, where they hate their neoliberal government. They're overworked, but they are literally being oppressed by their aging boomer population that support this neoliberalism. They are now U.S. puppets. Nigga, who dropped the bomb on you guys? Was it China or United States?
Yeah, that is terrible.
Now
that is coonery at a national level. Go ahead.
Yeah, remember when Shinzo Abe died? Young Japanese people had no love for him. He was imperial Japanese apologist. They are the people who've been in charge in Japan over the last few decades. Obviously, there's always this little tilt, but Japan is a largely right-wing country. It's been ran by these psychopaths, the Japanese genocide denialists like Shinzo Abe, who was the former president, who pro-J, have the same ideology. So you have these people who are Imperial Japan apologists that are now in charge, that are now boosting Japan's military budget against the will of the Japanese populace and the Japanese working class. And they have the audacity to blame China after your fucking crimes. After your crimes that you guys did to Japan. And I remember I traumatized myself before. Look at the rape of Nanjing. Look at what the Imperial Japan did to Japanese women and children. And after what you guys did, you guys now want to victimize and go after China. This guy said, I see Tony, the Japanese Sino War was horrible. The war crimes that the Imperial Japan did, it was so bad. They was like, all right, we're going pacifist after this shit. It's like the Nazis. They had to go low, CJ. They had to go low for a few decades. Now, after seeing Nazis being integrated in NATO, after seeing this neoliberal war push by the West, they said, oh, shit, we can come out hiding now.
Welcome back.
I gotta have an expert. Yeah, I'm gonna have an expert because I've been listening to a lot of. I've been trying to learn more about Japan. It's very crazy how much Japan had like nilled the boot and pretty much been a West proxy bootlicker in the region.
Yeah, just terrible.
Anyway, go ahead, CJ. I just want to go on that little rant.
Yeah, let me just. I'll read a couple more, and you're gonna want to rant some more after a couple more paragraphs here. I'm telling you. On Thursday, the U.S. Senate voted overwhelmingly to approve a $858 billion National Defense Authorization Act. Understand, this is propaganda here. This is offense. It's not defense. That's key.
Yeah,
great point. I'm saying that is offense. That is $45 billion larger than that requested by the White House, which was in turn larger than requested by the Pentagon. Here's some more money. Let me make it rain. Now let me go down here on how China is involved. So here we go. Here, the NDAA will upend Washington's decade-old One China policy by providing $10 billion in direct military funding to Taiwan for the first time. The bill will also institute no-bid contracting, typically used only in wartime. Typically used only in wartime. I feel like I have to say that again. Typically used only in wartime, allowing defense contractors to charge the U.S. government whatever they want. This specifically goes to the story, Nick. The first story you read. Weapon manufacturers getting money rained on them. There, right there. And let me continue. The bill transforms Taiwan into a frontline proxy for conflict with China in a manner similar to the way Ukraine is serving as a U.S. proxy for war with Russia.
I'm sorry, CJ, but I'm so glad they said that. And what we saw and what anti-war activists will tell you, despite what the U.S. narrative is, the Taiwanese people are not stupid. They see that shit. That's why they rejected the separatist movement in the recent election. They want to be used as a pawn by the West. But go ahead, CJ.
No, that's a great point. But where I wanted to zoom in also is it's because people who don't know this, they may be thinking, well, why did China and Russia, why are they deciding to do this? Do you think it has anything to do with a proxy war that Russia is currently fighting, where it's through Ukraine, where Russia has been attacked through where, Nick? Ukraine. Now let's move to China and Taiwan. When China has been attacked, where is it through, Nick? Taiwan. Yeah. Do we not see the similarities? Do we not see why these two countries, this is why they're saying in that statement, we are more. The future for them is more than that, because they're tied together because this imperialist power is trying to take them out.
Yep. And that's why China's strategy on Taiwan has been amazing, and why they showed such great restraint, because China's strategy regarding U.S. aggression against Taiwan has been, let's continue to have the economic relations with the Taiwanese people, so they realize that it's in their best interest to continue to play ball with us. Mm-hmm. So you have the West that are trying to convince Taiwanese people to sell out to U.S. corporations and abandon business with Beijing. And meanwhile, you got people in Taiwan like, Not gonna do that. Actually, Beijing and you look at the reports post election. This is what a lot of people were saying. We do great business with Beijing. We're not trying to leave China. Fuck they talking about. Fuck y'all talking about. We got no problem with them. And meanwhile, the extremists that is backed by the U.S. and it's been shown many times there have been psyops operations to boost Taiwanese separatists by the United States. Have been trying to boost these privileged Taiwanese people who know they'll sell out to U.S. companies, sell out to Taiwanese people. If Taiwan was to listen to the West, they'll be significantly worse off. And I'm so glad they realize that. Of course they do. They're smart, and that's why they continue to reject them. And this has not been working the way the United States wanted it to work.